UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, is considering giving British tax firms extra tax relief on investment spending as he seeks measures to boost economic growth in his spring budget. Hunt is reviewing a series of potential changes to the UK's capital spending allowances to encourage business investment, according to two people familiar with the matter who asked not to be named, discussing confidential plans. No final decisions have been made, and Hunt is constrained by tight fiscal pressure, they added. For more on these headlines, we cross over to London, where we're joined by Arise business analyst Bode Ososanmi. Good morning, Bode. Thank you so much for joining us. I guess I wanted to start with what we heard, from Jeremy Hunt and the tax break for businesses.
Well, markets, I think, are getting the message. And good morning. Thanks for having me on the show. Indeed, two developments are weighing on business as we speak. One is intensifying China-US tensions. That has been slowly gaining new momentum as the 2024 elections loom. And of course, the other is the Federal Reserve commentary, especially the latest Senate testimony of Jerome Powell, which, though hawkish, I wouldn't describe it as a surprise. Because obviously we knew this was coming. His comments have increased expectations of a 50 basis points rate hike at the March meeting. Wall Street tumbled, the US dollar jumped. But Powell really said what he has always been saying, that the central bank is determined to win the fight to bring inflation down using its available tools. And the data is going to lead, and the central bank, the Fed, will simply follow. But based on latest inflation figures, rates are likely to rise higher and stay at restrictive levels for longer than markets currently expect. Of course, the wider implication is that this tightening could lead to slower growth and may ultimately result in cyclical recessions. But we have to wait and see. The lag between the effect of interest rate adjustments and the impact on jobs and the economy is driving a lot of uncertainty and creates risks that the Fed will overdo these rate hikes. But it seems that they prefer to make that error than to have to fight inflation twice. But the initial thought of a hard landing that will lead to rate cuts is now looking highly unlikely. Indeed, we're likely to see firm jobs, wage growth pressures, and sticky inflation in the medium term, meaning 25 basis points, I think, will be around for longer. Like I said, 50 basis points is a possibility, with definitely a higher terminal rate than what we had in the previous dot plot. Today, I think more importantly, we're going to get some more data. The data elements are going to be much more critical to the Fed that says it's now doing a meeting by meeting scenario type situation. That means the data is going to be much more important, especially the recent data. We are getting the job openings and labor turnover survey today. We're also getting the private sector jobs report, ADP report. Also today, we're going to get the non-farm payrolls on Friday, and next week's inflation data, February CPI is expected to go down to 6.2 from 6.4. We'll see. February PPI, the core month, that's the producer inflation, factory gate inflation, is expected to come down from 0.5 to 0.3%. Again, we have to wait and see. The trend seems to be signaling sticky inflation, especially in the services sector. But the moral of the story is you just have to wait for the data and continue doing what the Fed is saying, which is essentially you can't bet that they won't have to increase rates for a much longer period.
And Powell pulled no punches yesterday. Do you think markets got the message as his testimony continues today?
Well, my sense is markets tend to be quite optimistic. Already, even ahead of the report, of course, that we saw the markets on the upside, that is in terms of how they were behaving in terms of stocks. But just after the read, especially the release of the statement, we saw markets go down, the indices. And again, even in Asia, they are still down now. But my sense is markets are going to be watching the data coming out this week, next week. I think they now get the point that this is going to be data driven, and it's better to react to the data and not to what Powell is saying.
Busy day for data today, starting with Europe, where we got updates on the macroeconomic indicators. What's your take?
Well, we got industrial production in Germany decreasing 1.55% in January, and that was in January 2023 over the same month in the previous year, but still better than a revised drop of 3.33% that we had in December. and the expected drop of 2.1% in January. There is a concern that industry in Europe is facing challenges. War in Ukraine, incentives to move shop to the US. For example, Intel seeking an additional 4 to 5 billion euros in subsidies from the government, German government to move ahead with a chip manufacturing complex. Volkswagen thinking of moving to the US. I think all that is the deindustrialization trend that is happening and is for real, and that has to be managed. But the data still shows manufacturing, if you exclude energy and construction, increasing by 1.9% in January 2023. Strong growth in electronic equipment, up 7.1%. Where we see a downside is more in manufacture of motor vehicles, down 5.2%, and manufacture of pharmaceutical products down 12.9%. Consumer products are also down. So construction output seems to be what is carrying the momentum, up 6% month on month.
All right, business analyst Bode Ososanmi. Bode, thanks for taking us through the headlines. Appreciate your insights as always.